Hey everyone, welcome to the next room on our to-do list, the kitchen. Today's transformation is, if I do say so myself, a really good one. Because we're working on the kitchen today and this has been a long time coming. So as a quick refresher, this is what the kitchen looked like when we first arrived back in the house at the end of last year. It was completely neglected. There was a lot of damage on the work surfaces that I needed to find a way to fix. And it was just looking very plain and bland and like it needed a really good refresh. So way back in September, I did a lot of the groundwork for this project. I sanded back all of the floors and I varnished them and I painted all of the walls in here to a nice creamy warm white, which in person made a huge difference in comparison to the brilliant white that was on the wall prior, which made the room feel very cold and a little bit clinical. So then we moved in and everything was as it was for about 6 months or so. Today is the day it's finished and I can finally share with you what we've done over the last few months to get this space looking really personalized, cozy, and like a cute little kitchen. So let's start with one of the most annoying and time-consuming projects, which was taking off all of the tile trim surrounding the tiles and prepping the space. That looks horrible, so we're gonna have to fix it once we finish pulling off this tile surround. Okay, so we did lose a couple of tiles in the process, but it's a good thing. I have some adhesive, so we're gonna put those back up. See what we can do here. What a horrible mess I've made. Oh well. I already chipped off all of the old grout and adhesive, so we can just fit it straight back. With all of the hideous tile trim finally taken off the walls, I could focus my attention on filling all of these holes from taking off the shelves. I have kept the shelves because I think they're very cool. I picked them up in a reclamation yard a long time ago. I'm just ready for a bit of a change in this space, so I think I might use them somewhere else in the house. Next, I was able to turn my attention to tidying up the top of the tiles with some filler, and also using some filler to fill this massive gap that was between the woodwork and the wall where the door is. I did have to go over this a few times because it was so large I needed to let the filler dry and then come back and do it again, but I think we got a good bit of coverage that first round. Okay, I have let everything dry now for a couple of hours. Next, we're going to touch up the paint, and then hopefully we won't have to do too many filler touch-ups, but if we do, then we do. Let's dig in. I spent some time painting over all of the odd patches in the kitchen, and and once the tiles had completely dry, I was able to go in and grout them. The tiles we have here in the kitchen are Zalige tiles or Zalige look-alike tiles, so they've got those sort of messy edges. They're slightly imperfect, which I really like, and it does help that I've been able to put those two back in place, and you can't really tell that they look a bit wonky because all of the tiles are wonky, so that's great for a beginner who doesn't really know much about tiling like me. Good morning, welcome back to the kitchen. We are now on day 2 and I got quite a lot done yesterday. Honestly, more than I anticipated. I was worried that the tile edging was going to take up the entire day at one point, but we got there. We still have so many things to do in this space before we can even think about styling it, but we have a very exciting delivery coming today. I went to the charity shops recently. We found a few furniture pieces that we really love. I found an incredible kitchen island / butcher block thing, and I think it's going to fit perfectly in the space because this space is actually quite large and it just feels very empty at the moment. We're also lacking a lot of cabinet space because I never went and got those upper cabinets. Still could go for that at a later date, but I think this is going to tide us over for now. We are only a 2-person household anyway, so I'm very excited for this thing to arrive. I would like to try and get some of these projects wrapped up before it arrives, but I'm not sure if we're going to have time. We do have to make this entire house a little bit more accessible for the furniture to come in and tidy a few things up before it arrives. So I'm hoping I've got the time. However, if I don't, then I guess the next thing you're going to see is the butcher block. What do you think? You look so tiny, look at you. The kitchen island arrived and it was perfect for the space. I was blown away by how good this looks. It really was exactly what this kitchen was missing. And I was a little bit worried because it was on the pricier side for a charity shop item. So I wasn't sure if I'd made the wrong decision or not. But when the delivery guys dropped it off, they did say to me that it's not very often they get items like this into the store. And it's so well made. It could be another decade before they get something like this in again. So that did make me feel like I'd made the right choice. This thing is amazing. It's got loads of storage. I'm so excited to style it, but first of all I've got to give it a good clean and change out those boring handles. Next up, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the countertops, because quite a few of you guys are probably wondering what happened to that big damp patch in the middle of the countertop, which was there when we came back from South Korea. I tried so many things and everything made it so much worse. But at the beginning of the year, I came up with an idea that I wanted to test out to see if it was gonna work or not. It might save me getting these replaced. So let's flash back to February where I first tested this idea.
Good morning. I'm about to commit a crime, but we'll see if it's going to work out or not. Remember my butcher block countertop? Well, I tried to sand them, didn't look any better until I got to the point where I made it look worse. I kept the secret from you for a while, but I sanded a bit too far and I'm not proud of it. I have to rectify the problem. So I've taken one for the team and I'm going to try something out before I commit to taking up the countertop. I ordered something that may or may not work. We're gonna find out today. But when I tell you this is peel and stick, I think you're gonna lose your mind. Hold on, let me open it. Scissors. Those are huge. So this is 2 sheets of wood veneer, but it's not normal wood veneer, it's peel and stick wood veneer. I've calculated that this should be just about enough for the whole of the worktop, but I'm not convinced and I definitely cannot make any mistakes. It's really interesting because it feels like wood and it's not been treated with anything, so I'm going to have to treat it with something once it's on. But let's take a look and see what it looks like up on the counter. It feels very substantial. It's not delicate, but I can feel when I pull it, like I can hear slight cracking noises, so I'm a bit concerned. Oh my god, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but this might work. Unfortunately, there's going to be a couple of centimeters at the end where I'm going to have to do another strip from the second batch, but we're going to figure out how to do that. Look at that though. That's going to look so good. I finally got that off, but I had to cut some of it with a Stanley knife. Luckily, we're going to silicone all of this, so it won't be an issue. After taking off the tile trim in this section of the kitchen, I realized that the tiles had been placed so far away from the worktop. So to protect this section of the kitchen, and because it was quite close to the sink, I used a thick line of silicone sealant all the way along the back and down the side of the sink as well. Now, you might think that this project is quite similar to using peel and stick vinyl, because that's what I thought, but I've got to say it is absolutely so far from it. All of those years of me practicing with peel and stick vinyl could not have prepared me for this. The veneer is a lot thicker and trickier to stick down, so it will have more air bubbles. You'll have to spend a lot more time flattening those out, and cutting around all of the appliances like the cooktop and the sink will be a nightmare because this stuff is so thick. So I'm using an X-Acto knife and some scissors to do the job here. Anywhere you've cut the veneer will be a bit jagged on the edges, so you'll want to go in with some sandpaper to sand those down. Around the stovetop, I had to cut a few smaller pieces down to size to make the veneer fit. And as you can see, this has created a couple of joins. So we want to disguise these lines with some wood filler. I used some putty and I just put that on with my fingers to cover up the joins. I let it dry and it worked really, really well to disguise the fact that we've cut this into a few separate pieces. Last but not least, I used 3 coats of clear food safe varnish to seal the worktop and make sure that it was going to stay nicely in place for as long as possible. So we are now back in the present day. I wanted to give this a really good time to see how the countertops would hold up with this wood veneer and if it was worth doing the rest of the countertop. Is this a permanent solution? Absolutely not, but I'm hoping it's going to tide us over for a good few years until it's time to replace the countertops properly. So let's crack on with this section now that it's been like 4 or 5 months since we did the last one.
Here we have the other side of the kitchen. It doesn't look too bad, a little bit rough around the edges, but it doesn't match the other side now, so we're going to make it match. Sadly, the size of this veneer is just shy of being kitchen worktop width, so we will have to cut a little section for the back. I'm lining up the front of the veneer with the front of the worktop to make sure that that is a nice crisp line. We can hide the extra section in the back more easily. You'll notice as well that I didn't use veneer on the front edges of the worktop because I thought they matched pretty well and I didn't want to make an unnecessary join. I thought it looked better this way, but it's up to you if you want to add an edge banding.
Okay, so this is the first piece of this section down. I've just taken this very small squeegee and I've forcefully run it across the whole surface to make sure there are no air bubbles. Because this is veneer, it is more likely to have some air bubbles in it. It's very thick. So I wanted to do what I could before we put the top coat on it. As you can see, the piece isn't big enough to cover the whole countertop, so I've left the empty strip at the back to fill up. I'm going to use strips of this to fill that gap with because I've just worked it out, and I think this section will be the third and final roll. Now the next thing I have to do is decide whether I want to do one piece going this way as it is with the countertop underneath, or do I want the wood grain to go this way? I think it will look a little bit odd if the wood grain is going all in the same direction. It won't look much like a countertop. So, like, that is nice, but it doesn't look right. The next piece will go that way. Once we've filled in all the gaps, I'm going to come back and seal it off.
And this is why we sand. This is the before and the after of the sanding. Once that's all done, you'll want to go in with 3 more top coats of the clear varnish, again making sure that this is food safe so you can use it on your worktops. While the varnish is drying, you might notice a few extra air bubbles in the veneer. Don't panic, this should all disappear by the time it's completely cured. Now for the final touch, a little bit of decorator's cork all along the edges.
You know what? It is so nice to have matching countertops again. You don't realize how much you miss it until you don't have countertops that match, and they look very different to one another for a good few months. I am now so ready to get this kitchen styled up and looking cute. I am so over it looking boring, so let me show you what I did to make it look like this.
As I'd taken down some of the shelving that we already had up, we were a little bit short on space, so I'm putting up some new shelving that I feel match the new vibe of the kitchen. And to do this, I'm doing a little hack. I'm taking some picture ledges and I'm placing them upside down to create this modern looking shelf. These are so easy to cut with a jigsaw down to the perfect size. You can then install them, and a small bit of decorator's cork underneath should tidy them up nicely. Now it's time to move on to some more of the styling, so I'm adding this wine rack that I picked up recently in the charity shop. I found this gorgeous art piece in an antique store the other day, and it's actually signed by the artist. I think it's beautiful. It was only £10. So I'm putting this up in the kitchen. The only issue is that the print itself has got a bit of damage to it. I cleaned the inside and the outside of the glass of the frame, and it turns out it's on the print, but that's okay. I think it gives it a little bit more of a rustic vintage vibe. We added this rug underneath the butcher block to ground the space a little bit more, and then it was time to style the rest of the kitchen with all of the fun bits.
Now with the styling done, of course, I've got to show you a flashback. This is what the kitchen looked like before. We have a lot going on in here. Just wasn't looking its finest. And here's what the kitchen looks like now. I'm so pleased with this. I know I say this every time, but I'm really pleased with this one. It just feels so much brighter and cozier in here, and I can finally style it and make it look really interesting so I can take cute videos and pictures in here. However, I will say there's a few more things that I would like to do in this space, so I am going to prepare for a part 2. It might take a couple of months, but that's because I'm looking for a couple of pieces to really finish off the space and I haven't found them yet. I'd really like to create a coffee station where the Smeg fridge is and move that slightly round to the right so that we can utilize this alcove really well. And there are a few other things that I would like to do in this space, so I will save them for that video, but until then, I'm really pleased with how this turns out. It functions so well and it looks like a kitchen again. I'm so happy. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date when I post part 2 and all of the other makeovers that are coming. I'm actually working on an office/back bedroom makeover as we speak. So that's coming up next. And with all of that being said, I'm gonna sign off here. I hope you guys have a great week. Let me know if you try this kitchen countertop hack, and if you do, proceed at your own risk. With that being said, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!